Are there any Asian in the house?
I never thought I was going to be a stand-up comedian. I've been doing it less than a year. If you told me a year ago that I would be performing stand-up at comedy clubs, I would have said, no, you're crazy. Because, not that, I know that I have a good sense of humor, but I was never the kid in school who was sitting in the back row, you know, cracking jokes and making people laugh. I was never the class clown. I was always the nerdy, you know, straight-A student. And my father was always the funny one. And I think in your family, people tend to play different roles. And I always thought my dad is the funny one. You know, I'm not the funny one. In a way, I think that my father would have liked to have done this. You know, so I think that his sense of humor, and he's such a performer, and he gets up and sings at parties and MCs people's parties. And in school, in a way, I guess I was a little bit of an outsider, even though I didn't think I was, just because I looked different. So it would be pointed out to me, you know, oh, you know, people would go ching chong, wing wong, or wing wang orangutan, or gook, or chink. It really bugged me when they would say chink, because at least get it right. You know, I'm Korean. So if you're going to call me anything, call me a gook. I used to go to auditions for acting jobs, and they would say things like, could you do that more oriental? And I would just roll my eyes and say, what does that mean? Buck my teeth out? And like, should I go like this? Like that is like, what do they mean by that? Because I'm 100% Korean, so I couldn't be more Korean. I already am Korean, so I was offended by that, and I would try to do the accent, and I couldn't even do the accent. I was terrible at it, or so I thought. When in reality, it wasn't that I couldn't do the accent. I just didn't want to do the accent, because I didn't want them telling me on their terms that I have to, you know, pander to some stereotype of Asian women.
Okay, try it with an accent.
What kind of accent do you want me to do? A Parisian accent? Excuse me. Yes, a very good Chinese accent I can do for you.
It's just so interesting, though, like, when you go to auditions, and sometimes people have assumptions about you, like, so show me a little karate. But I don't know karate. Or, you know, when I used to travel around the country for Fox, and people would ask me, how does that dry cleaning process work? I don't know. You know, or assuming that I'm a manicurist, or that, you know, whatever. Or people who are so ignorant about geography that they ask me, Korea, isn't that in China? Is that a city in China? Yeah, that's what it is. You know, it's just, no, it's a whole separate country.
I would like to give shout out to my family in Seoul, Korea. What's up?
So I created this character, Hee Park, who is fresh off the boat from Seoul, South Korea, which is where both of my parents are from. And it's always been her dream in Korea. You know, she's seen American television and comedians, and she just wants to come to Hollywood and make it as a stand-up comedian. And I just decided that she's staying in a hostel. She doesn't have much money. She goes to the comedy clubs and sits in the back and sort of takes notes, and, you know, and then she gets up for the first time to do it. And ultimately, my goal is that I'm making fun of my own race.
He just gave everyone an excuse to laugh at Asian people, period.
It's because it's right on the border fringes of being, you know, not funny and being slightly offensive.
It's very dangerous and could be portrayed as kind of stereotyping.
It was a little too realistic to be comical.
I can see why somebody would not want me to perpetuate a stereotype, but it certainly isn't a stereotype of Asian women, especially in traditional Korean dress, that they are out there trying to be stand-up comedians, and that they are leading with their sense of humor, because it takes a lot of courage, it takes balls to get up there and try to make people laugh. And that's not the stereotypical passive, submissive Asian woman image that some people might have.
It's provocative. That's a good thing. That can be a good thing. You know.
Elaborate.
It shakes people up. It makes people uncomfortable. I don't think that's a bad thing in comedy.
She's able to make fun of her own culture, and I think that's the key to comedy. You got to be able to look at yourself and, you know, have the courage to make fun of yourself. And we, in each culture, we have certain things that we laugh about, and it works because of that. And I think it's great. I think it's really, really funny.
I think it's a little different type of stereotype. I mean, I think that now, I mean, most people assume that when you look at her in character that she's not able to speak English. But I also think that after a while, most people will catch on because of the type of humor that she says to kind of know that she's not actually that exact exaggeration. So that's why I think it's a little more complicated in the stereotype that she's perpetuating.
Because they understand that some racism comes from ignorance, some racism comes from malice and bad intent. And that what I want to say about her is that she is coming from a place of ignorance. To her, certain words and concepts, that's just how they are. She's not trying to be evil. And I think it just sheds light on certain types of racism that come from ignorance. It would be good to educate these people. And in a way, I feel like I'm enlightening people and educating them out of their ignorance about racism through what I'm doing.
How can you tell if a Korean broke into your house? Your dog is missing and the homework is done.
I think that sometimes when there's areas of darkness, which I find racism to be a big area of darkness, that one way to shine light on it is with humor. I think that when people are laughing, it absolutely sheds light on their own darkness, and that if they have any racist tendencies, that it makes them take a look at it. I mean, I am in no way, shape, or form up there hoping that people will become even more racist. I just want them to recognize how they feel, recognize the fact that they're laughing. Why are they laughing, and can we put some light on the whole issue of it? When I put on that outfit, I feel like I actually become somebody else, that I am channeling someone else. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm the one performing it, but it really, it's bizarre what happens when I put the outfit on. The truth of the matter is that Hee Park is a part of me. Even though I was born and raised in this country, it's in my DNA. You know, that whole sort of sweet, passive, submissive, be gentle, don't make waves, those tendencies are in me. And I need to struggle against them to be out there and ballsy and opinionated and, you know, in your face. But those things, you know, that's part of me too. So instead of the Korean and the American being sort of mutually exclusive and dichotomous, I want to sort of, in my life, in my personal life, and in my career, just find a way to integrate them. And ultimately, I want to do this one-woman show where I start out like that, then I take off the outfit, you know, and then I just start telling stories as myself. Ideally, I'd like to be, like, instead of a Ghostbuster, I'd like to be Stereotype Buster. That would be great. But just making people laugh in and of itself is wonderful. I mean, I think that laughter is incredibly healing. I think they've cured people of diseases through laughter therapy. I think that in and of itself is wonderful.